Welcome back, everyone. Today we're gonna take a deep dive into a pretty fascinating area. It's New York City foreign mail cancellations.
Oh, this is gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
and specifically those from, let's say, 1845 to 1878.
Okay.
Now, for those of you who may not know, there's this incredible two-volume book that came out by Nicholas Kirk.
Oh yeah, Kirk's work is really shaking things up.
Totally. He really challenges a lot of the traditional thinking in this area and presents, well, I mean, a lot of groundbreaking findings, really.
And the visuals, don't even get me started on the visuals, those cancellations, they're like little works of art.
They really are. I mean, it's amazing how much detail and care went into those things back then.
It's true, you can really see the craftsmanship. And the historical context too. These covers tell a story.
Absolutely. And Kirk, he does a fantastic job of bringing that history to life. But, one of the first things that really struck me about his work is that he doesn't just accept the traditional way of looking at New York foreign mail. He actually, he challenges the very term itself.
Yeah, he makes a really compelling case for why we should be using New York City foreign mail instead. It's about emphasizing the point that the mail needs to originate in New York City, not just be processed there.
Right. Exactly. And he illustrates this with a couple of really interesting examples. One is a cover that was sent from New Orleans to Paris.
Okay, yeah.
Now, it was processed in New York.
But it didn't start there.
Exactly. And that's Kirk's whole point.
Yeah.
It's not about foreign mail passing through New York. It's about mail that truly begins its journey there.
It's about that point of origin.
Right. And that distinction, well, it's important when you're trying to, I don't know, build a focused collection or really study this material in depth.
Absolutely. It refines the scope, allows for a more, targeted analysis of the postal operations happening specifically within New York City.
Right. And speaking of time periods, Kirk doesn't stop there. He actually challenges the traditionally accepted timeline for New York City foreign mail as well.
Yeah, most people think of it as starting around 1870 and going to 1876, but Kirk pushes those dates back, way back.
He found this incredible cover from 1850. It has this really distinctive grid cancellation on it.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. That cover really throws a wrench in our understanding of when these types of cancellations first appeared.
Totally. And on the other end of the timeline, he found evidence that hand-carved New York City foreign mail cancellations were still being used as late as 1877.
So he's essentially expanding the scope of study by over 2 decades.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and it makes you wonder what else might be out there waiting to be discovered, right?
It's exciting to think about. And, the thing is, Kirk doesn't just redefine the term and the timeline. He introduces a whole new way of classifying these cancellations, like a whole new system.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, especially for those of us who love digging into the details. So instead of relying on the traditional approaches, he created this chronological system based on the earliest documented use of each design.
It's so smart, so elegant.
I know. It's like, why didn't anyone think of this before?
For example, let's say you have a simple geometric cancellation, and the first time you see it used is April 9th, 1867. Okay, so in Kirk's system, it would be categorized as 670409 SGEO.
It's so clear, and it makes so much sense.
The date is right there in the classification, and then you've got the suffix that tells you the type of design. You can really see the evolution of the cancels much more clearly when they're organized like this.
And, it's not just about creating a neat and tidy system, right? This chronological approach has some really practical benefits. So as new discoveries are made, they can be integrated into the existing framework. They just slot right in.
Exactly. You don't have to disrupt the whole sequence or, reinvent the wheel every time.
Right. It provides the solid foundation for future research,
Yeah.
ensures that our understanding of New York City foreign mail continues to grow and evolve. And it's exciting to see how much one person can really change the way we think about an entire area of study.
It's inspiring, really.
So now you might be thinking, okay, this is all very impressive, but what about the cancellations themselves? What makes them so special? Like, what should we be paying attention to?
Well, one thing that Kirk noticed is that some of the designs seem to have migrated.
Migrated.
Yeah, between the domestic and foreign mail departments within the New York City Post Office. So he found these examples of identical cancellation designs being used on domestic mail one year, and then boom, they pop up on foreign mail a couple years later.
That's so interesting.
It's a little detail, but it raises some big questions about how the post office actually operated back then.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, were they intentionally sharing cancellations between departments? Or was it just a matter of convenience? Maybe they were trying to save money on equipment.
Right. Or maybe there were staffing shortages and they had to get creative. It's like we're getting these glimpses into the human element behind these seemingly mundane postal markings.
It's like these cancellations are little clues that help us piece together the bigger story of how mail was actually processed and handled in 19th century New York City.
Exactly. It's about understanding the people, the systems, the decisions that shaped the way mail moved around the world back then. And it's not just dates and destinations, it's a whole lot more.
Okay, so now let's talk about one cover that really highlights what makes New York City foreign mail so captivating. This one was sent all the way to Burma in 1874. It's got these intricate geometric cancellations. It just screams history.
This cover is a perfect example of how these items can appeal to people with different interests. Some people are drawn to the stamps, others to the cancellations, and others to the historical context. It's amazing. There's something for everyone.
And speaking of treasures, we've got to talk about what Kirk calls the undisputed king of New York City foreign mail.
Ah, yes, this is the big one. A cover sent to Brazil in 1872. It's got the only known ungrilled 90-cent national bank note stamp with a New York City foreign mail cancellation. This is a legendary piece of postal history.
And it comes with an incredible story about how Kirk acquired it. He was negotiating with the owner who kept mentioning all these grandsons he had, almost like he was producing them on demand to justify a higher price.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it also shows how passionate Kirk is about building his collection and securing those truly exceptional pieces.
It's a good reminder that behind every rare cover, there's a story of dedication, persistence, and sometimes even a bit of humor.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've focused a lot on New York City, but Kirk doesn't stop there. He actually expands his scope to include other U.S. exchange offices that handled foreign mail. He's saying, hey, New York wasn't the only game in town.
Right. There were other gateways for international mail during this time, and he uses this cover sent from Ireland to Maine in 1861 as an example. It was processed at the Portland, Maine Exchange Office.
So it's like he's encouraging us to think beyond the usual suspects. Explore those lesser-known exchange offices, because who knows what we might find.
Exactly. There are hidden gems out there just waiting to be discovered. It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, even in areas that have been studied for decades.
Now, one of the things I really appreciate about Kirk's book is that it's not just a dry academic analysis of New York City foreign mail. He injects these fantastic personal anecdotes and humorous observations throughout the text.
He's got this great story about how a zebra at the Central Park Zoo might have inspired a cancellation design.
Right, and then there's the tale of the hedgehog stealing stamps. I mean, come on, that's just fantastic.
Those little touches of humor and personality make the book so enjoyable to read. You feel like you're on this adventure with him, making these discoveries together.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder that even the most serious research can benefit from a little bit of levity.
A human touch.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the new discoveries that Kirk brings to light. He's not just summarizing existing knowledge, he's pushing the boundaries of the field.
One of the most exciting finds is a cover from 1865. It was sent to China and has this unique five-pointed star cancellation. It's a real treasure, and it just goes to show that there are still amazing things out there waiting to be found.
It makes you wonder what else is out there, just waiting to be uncovered. And that's what's so exciting about this field. There's always the potential to make a new discovery, to contribute to our collective knowledge of postal history.
Absolutely. And Kirk has developed a whole new system for classifying these new discoveries. It goes beyond his chronological approach and takes into account all these intricate details and variations within each cancellation design. It's groundbreaking, really, and I'm sure it's going to spark a lot of discussion and research in the years to come.
It's amazing how one person can come along and completely change the way we think about an entire area of study, right? And that's exactly what Kirk has done with his work on New York City foreign mail. It's a game changer, and it's going to have a lasting impact on how we collect, study, and appreciate these fascinating pieces of the past.
No doubt about it.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but there's so much more to explore. We'll be back soon to unpack more of Kirk's groundbreaking insights into the world of New York City foreign mail.
It's so easy to get lost in the weeds, all the dates and the designs, the classification systems. But what really gets me excited about this stuff is, it's the human element, right?
I agree. And Kirk, I mean, he totally gets that. His book is so much more than just a catalog of cancellations. He really brings the history to life.
Right. Like, he reminds us that behind all these catalogs and classifications, there were real people, you
Mhm.
know? People with passions and quirks, just like us.
Absolutely. They were making decisions, shaping the postal landscape, sometimes even making mistakes. It's amazing to think that something as, I don't know, as seemingly simple as a cancellation can tell us so much about the people who handled the mail.
Exactly. And not just the people, but the systems they worked within, the historical context. Kirk's analysis of the cancellation designs themselves is a great example of that. He doesn't just describe them, he looks for like patterns and connections. He even sees evolution in their forms.
His observation about the migration of cancellation designs between the domestic and foreign mail departments, that was a real eye-opener for
Oh,
me.
yeah, that's a big one.
It challenges our assumptions about how the postal system operated.
We tend to think of these systems as like rigid and bureaucratic, but Kirk's work suggests there's a lot more flexibility, maybe even a bit of improvisation going on.
It makes you wonder what those postal clerks were thinking as they chose which cancellations to use. Were they following strict guidelines, or was there room for personal preference? Were they even aware of the subtle variations in their cancellations?
Great questions, and they highlight the need for more research into the day-to-day operations of the post office, you know? We need to go beyond the regulations and try to understand the human choices and actions that shaped the postal landscape.
Like we're piecing together a giant puzzle, and each new discovery adds another piece.
Exactly. And Cook's book is such a valuable contribution to that effort. He's not only providing new information, but he's asking the right questions. You know, he's
Mhm.
inspiring others to do the same.
Okay, let's talk about the visuals for a minute. I mean, the images in this book are just stunning.
They really are. You can see all those intricate details of the cancels, the vibrant colors of the stamps, the handwriting on the covers. It's like holding a piece of history in your hands.
And the way Kirk presents them, with those clear captions and all that contextual information, it really enhances the experience. It's like having a personal tour guide through the world of New York City foreign mail.
Speaking of personal touches, I have to say, I really enjoy Kirk's writing style. It's so engaging and approachable. You can tell he's passionate about this stuff, and he does a great job of conveying that enthusiasm to the reader.
Yeah, he doesn't talk down to the reader, even when he's discussing those, complex technical details.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to inject a little humor into the text.
It's a welcome change from the sometimes dry tone of academic writing, that's for sure.
Okay, so we've been focusing a lot on Kirk's work and what makes it so unique, but I think it's important to step back and consider the broader significance of studying New York City foreign mail. Why should this particular area of postal history matter to people today, especially in a world where, instant communication is the norm?
That's a great question, and it's something I think about a lot, actually. I mean, it's easy to forget that our modern communication systems have their roots in the past.
Right. The Postal Service was absolutely essential in connecting people and businesses across vast distances. It laid the foundation for the globalized world we live in today.
And these New York City foreign mail covers, they're tangible reminders of that era.
They connect us to the people who sent and received those letters, to their stories, their experiences. I mean, imagine a time when a letter could take weeks or even months to reach its destination.
It boggles the mind, doesn't it?
It really does. And they remind us that communication wasn't always instant and effortless. It required uh, patience, planning, and a certain level of trust in the system.
And they reflect the rise of New York City as this global hub of commerce and communication in the 19th century. As New York grew and flourished, so did its role in facilitating international correspondence.
And those cancellations, with their distinctive designs and markings, are a testament to the city's importance in that global postal network. It's amazing to think that something as small as a cancellation can tell us so much about a city's history.
It really is.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the impact of Kirk's work on the field of postal history. I mean, this book is already generating a lot of buzz, and it's clear that it's going to have a lasting impact.
Oh, absolutely. His new classification system is, I mean, it's a game changer. And his discoveries are already sparking new research. It's exciting to see how his work is inspiring others to delve deeper into this area.
It's like he's given us a fresh set of lenses to view this material through. He's encouraging us to ask new questions, to re-examine our assumptions.
And he's attracting new collectors and researchers to the field, which is fantastic. We
Yeah.
need that fresh energy and enthusiasm to keep things moving forward.
Okay, so now I know we've been talking a lot about the technical aspects of these cancels, the dates, the designs, the classifications, but I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering about the practical side of collecting. How do people actually acquire these covers, and what should they be looking for?
Great questions. Well, there are a few different avenues people can explore. Auctions are a popular option. You can bid on a wide range of material there, from common cancels uh, to rare gems.
Dealers who specialize in postal history are another good source. They often have these curated selections of covers, and they can provide expert guidance on authenticity, rarity, value, things like that.
And then there's always the thrill of the hunt. Right.
Oh yeah, gotta love that.
Searching through boxes and piles at stamp shows, flea markets, you never know what treasures you might uncover.
Now, when it comes to what to look for, there are a few key factors to keep in mind. Condition is always important, obviously.
Right.
A well-preserved cover, clear cancellations, those are going to be more desirable than something that's damaged or faded.
Rarity is another big one. A cover sent to an unusual destination or bearing a scarce cancel that's going to command a higher price.
And of course, there's personal appeal. Some people might be drawn to certain types of cancels or specific historical periods.
In the end, the most important thing is to collect what you enjoy, what speaks to you, what sparks your curiosity.
Exactly. And with so much variety in the world of New York City foreign mail, there really is something out there for everyone. Okay, so let's talk about those intricate geometric designs that started appearing in the 1870s. They're just mesmerizing.
They really are. Those elaborate patterns, the intricate details, the artistry, they're just so different from the earlier cancels. Kirk has a whole chapter dedicated to exploring their development and evolution. He breaks down the different design elements, traces their lineage, even speculates on the inspiration behind them.
It's fascinating to see how some designs evolve from like simpler forms gradually becoming more complex and elaborate over time. It's like watching an artist at work.
And it's important to remember that these cancels weren't just utilitarian objects, right? They were expressions of craftsmanship and aesthetic sensibility.
Absolutely. They reflect a pride in workmanship that extended even to the smallest details of postal administration.
And they're a testament to the human desire to create beauty, even in the most mundane tasks.
Okay, so let's talk about the historical context for a moment. These cancels emerged during a period of, rapid growth and transformation in New York City. It was becoming a global hub of commerce, culture, innovation.
And the postal system was playing a vital role in connecting New York to the rest of the world. These intricate cancels with their distinctive designs and precise markings, they reflected the city's growing importance on the international stage.
They were symbols of New York's ambition, its sophistication, its connection to the global network.
And they're tangible reminders of a time when handwritten letters were the primary means of long-distance communication. A time when people actually took the time to carefully craft their messages, knowing that it might be weeks or even months before their words reached their destination.
It's such a contrast to our world today, isn't it?
It really is. But by studying these artifacts, we can gain this deeper appreciation for the history of communication, for how these technologies that connect us today evolved over time.
Okay, so we've talked about the cancels, but let's not forget about the stamps themselves. They play a huge role in the story of New York City foreign mail. We already mentioned the Undisputed King, that incredible cover with the ungrilled 90-cent National Bank note stamp.
A tree gem.
But there are so many other fascinating stamps that can be found on these covers, from those early Postmaster's provisionals to the classic 1869 pictorial issue. Each stamp tells its own story.
And the way they were used, the combinations, the cancellations, the destinations, it all adds these layers of complexity and intrigue to the study of New York City foreign mail.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Exactly, uncovering the hidden stories behind each stamp and its journey through the postal system.
And for collectors, the thrill of finding a rare stamp with a unique New York City foreign mail cancellation, it's unparalleled.
It really is. It's a testament to their dedication, a reward for their patience.
Okay, so let's talk about those postal markings. The auxiliary markings, the date stamps, transit markings, arrival markings, all those little stamps and scribbles that tell the story of a letter's journey. They're like clues to a mystery.
And Kirk's book is like a master class in deciphering those clues.
Right. He provides these clear explanations, detailed illustrations. He really helps you understand the significance of each marking and its place in the overall puzzle.
He also emphasizes the importance of looking for patterns and connections between these markings. For example, a particular bait stamp might be associated with a specific ship or a certain route.
Which can tell us a lot about the path the letter took to reach its destination, like being a postal detective.
Exactly. Following the trail of markings, unraveling the mystery of each cover's history.
Okay, so let's delve into some of the stories behind the covers themselves. I mean, each one is a unique piece of history. We've already talked about that incredible cover sent to Burma with its complex routing and that fascinating historical context.
But there are countless other covers in Kirk's book that they capture the imagination. There's a cover sent to China during the Taiping Rebellion, a letter from a soldier during the Civil War, a postcard from a traveler exploring Europe.
Each cover tells a story, connecting us to the people and events of the past. And through Kirk's research and his storytelling, those stories really come to life.
It's like stepping into a time machine.
Right. And it's a reminder that even in this digital age, the power of handwritten communication, I mean, it's still there. It's as strong as ever.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about New York City foreign mail. We've talked about the technical details, the personal stories, but I think one question remains. What is it about this particular area that's so captivating? What makes it so alluring to collectors and researchers?
It's a great question. And I think the answer is, well, it's a combination of factors. It's the history, the artistry, the mystery. These covers and cancels, they're tangible artifacts of a bygone era, a time when communication was slower, more deliberate.
They offer a glimpse into the lives of everyday people, their connections to the wider world, their experiences in a rapidly changing society.
And the designs of the cancels themselves they're beautiful. They're like miniature works of art,
Yeah.
each one unique and meticulously crafted.
And then there's the mystery, right? The challenge of deciphering those markings, reconstructing routes, piecing together those stories. It's like solving a puzzle.
And for a lot of people, that sense of discovery is what makes it so addictive. The thrill of the hunt, the excitement of finding a rare gem.
And that passion, I mean, that's what drives the study of postal history. It ensures that these artifacts are preserved, that their stories continue to be told.
Okay, so we've been focusing a lot on the past, but let's take a minute to think about the future of New York City foreign mail collecting. What are some of the trends that are emerging? What are the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead?
Well, one trend that's becoming more and more apparent is this growing interest in specialized areas within New York City foreign mail. Collectors aren't just content with, any cover with a New York City foreign mail cancellation anymore.
Right, they're looking for something specific, covers with certain types of cancels or covers sent to unusual destinations or those bearing rare stamps. They're building these focused collections.
And the specialization is leading to new discoveries, a deeper understanding of the nuances of this area. It's really pushing the boundaries of research.
Another trend that's really shaping the future is technology. I mean, online auctions, databases, they're making it easier for people to access a wider range of material.
Oh, absolutely. And it's easier to connect with other enthusiasts around the world.
Right. And digital imaging, analysis tools, those are helping collectors authenticate covers, identify cancels, research their historical context.
And technology's changing the way collections are presented and shared, too.
People are creating online exhibits, writing blogs, participating in online forums. They're sharing their knowledge and passion with a wider audience.
And that outreach is so important. It helps raise awareness and attract new collectors to the field.
Now, along with these positive trends, there are also some challenges, right?
Of course. One challenge is the dwindling supply of high-quality material. As more and more collectors specialize, the competition for those top-tier covers, it gets pretty intense.
And that scarcity drives up prices, which makes it harder for new collectors to enter the market.
Another challenge is the need for education.
Right. There are a lot of complexities to New York City foreign mail. All those different cancels, markings, routings. It can be pretty overwhelming for newcomers.
Exactly. So it's crucial that those of us who have been in this field for a while, that we share our knowledge and expertise with the next generation. We need to make sure this area of study continues to thrive.
So, despite the challenges, the future of New York City foreign mail collecting is it's looking bright.
Oh, I agree.
The passion and dedication of the collectors, combined with the ongoing discoveries and the advancements in technology, I mean, it's a guarantee that this area of postal history will continue to captivate and inspire people for years to come.
No doubt about it. It's a fascinating field.
Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to address a question that I hear a lot from people who are new to postal history. They ask, why collect old letters and cancels? Like, what's the point?
It's a fair question, especially in today's world. But I think there are several compelling reasons why people are drawn to postal history, and to New York City foreign mail in particular.
Well, first of all, it's a connection to the past, right? These covers and cancels, they're tangible reminders of a bygone era. They offer us these glimpses into the lives of ordinary people.
Their connections to the world around them, their experiences in a rapidly changing society. For many collectors, that connection is deeply meaningful.
It's true. And secondly, postal history is like this giant puzzle waiting to be solved. Deciphering those markings, reconstructing those routes, piecing together the stories, it's a real intellectual challenge.
And the more you learn, the more complex and intriguing that puzzle becomes.
And let's not forget the beauty of it all. The cancels, the stamps, the handwriting, it's visually stunning.
They're like little works of art.
And finally, let's not forget the social aspect. Postal history is it's a hobby that brings people together.
Collectors connect at stamp shows, through clubs, online. They share their knowledge and their passion for this fascinating field.
So whether you're drawn to the history, the puzzle, the beauty, or the social connections, there's a place for you in the world of New York City foreign mail.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, but there's always more to learn and discover about this fascinating area of postal history.
It's a vast and complex field.
As new discoveries are made and technology advances, our understanding of New York City foreign mail will continue to evolve. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep the passion for postal history alive.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought. In today's world, it's easy to take communication for granted, you know? We send messages across the globe in an instant. We don't even think about the technology that makes it possible.
But by studying postal history, we're reminded of a time when communication was a much more deliberate act. We're reminded of the effort and care that went into writing and sending letters.
And the anticipation and excitement of receiving them.
Exactly. And I think that's a valuable lesson to carry with us today.
To slow down, to appreciate the power of words, to cherish the connections we have.
Because even in a world of instant messages and social media, the human need to connect, to share our stories, to build relationships, it's still there. It's as strong as ever.
That brings us to the end of part 2. In part 3, we'll take a look at some of the specific insights that Kirke offers about how the New York City Post Office actually operated back then, and we'll explore the broader implications of his findings for understanding the evolution of communication. All right, so we're back. Let's dive into some of the specifics that Kirke reveals about how that New York City Post Office actually worked back then.
I think one of the coolest things is how Kirke uses postal statistics and mail volume data. It's like he paints this picture of just how busy that post office was.
Right. I mean, you look at the numbers, he analyzed the postmaster's reports, and the volume of mail, especially the foreign mail going through New York City, just skyrocketed during this period.
It's wild.
You can really see it in those graphs he includes in the book, too.
Yeah, the visual representation is it's pretty striking.
Makes you realize just how much mail they were dealing with every single day.
I mean, can you imagine?
And the logistics of it all, trying to process and send out all that mail to all those different places, using the technology and systems they had back then.
It must have been a nightmare, but it also makes you appreciate how important the postal system was. I mean, to the growth of international trade, communication, everything.
Oh, absolutely. New York City was like the central hub connecting people and businesses across the globe.
So speaking of destinations, Kirke actually digs into where all that mail was going, right?
Yeah, he tracked the number of destinations over time, and there was a huge increase.
Wow. So where was it all going?
Well, he identified almost 70 different countries and territories that received mail from New York City during that time.
That's amazing.
It's really impressive when you think about it.
It really highlights the global reach of that postal network. And New York's place in it all.
No, one thing I found really interesting was how Kirk handles the errors, the mistakes that happened.
Oh, yeah, those are always fun.
Because even the best postal clerks, they're human.
They're bound to mess up every now and then.
Exactly. And Kirk actually includes a whole section in the book dedicated to these mistakes. There's this one cover. It's got a 30-cent stamp on it.
Okay.
And it's gone through, like, all these certificates of authenticity, been sold at reputable auctions.
Yeah.
And he still questions whether it's genuine or not. He lays out all the evidence, but he doesn't, give a definitive answer. He wants the reader to think critically about it, look at the evidence, and form their own conclusions.
I like that approach. It encourages you to really engage with the material.
Exactly. And it shows that postal history is not always black and white. There's room for interpretation, for debate, for a little mystery even.
That's what keeps it interesting.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to mention one more thing about Kirk's book. He doesn't just give you the dry facts. He actually shares his own thoughts and reflections on the whole research process, on collecting.
I'm going to say more personal, right?
Yeah, like you're having a conversation with a fellow collector. He talks about the joys of building a collection, the challenges, the importance of mentorship and collaboration.
He even includes a heartwarming tribute to his dog, Badger. Apparently, Badger was his faithful companion throughout the whole research and writing process.
It's those little touches that make the book so enjoyable.
So as we come to the end of our New York City foreign mail deep dive, any final thoughts?
I think the main takeaway here is that these cancels, these letters, they're not just objects. They're like little time capsules. They give us these glimpses into the lives of people from another era.
It's true. We can learn so much from them.
And even though we live in this hyper-connected world now, those basic human needs to connect, to communicate, they haven't changed. These covers, they give us a tangible connection to that shared experience.
If you're interested in learning more about New York City foreign mail, you really should check out Nicholas Kirk's book.
It's a must-read for anyone who's fascinated by this area of postal history.
Beautifully illustrated, meticulously researched, and a surprisingly engaging read. All right, everyone, that's it for our deep dive into the world of New York City foreign mail. Thanks for joining us.